bearer thought for the Hare Krishnas. The Hare Krishnas have been in Australia for more than 10 years now, seems a lot longer. The Orange people, or Rajneeshis, as they're also called, are a more recent arrival. But people are now confusing the Hare Krishnas with the Orange people, and even abusing Krishnas on the street. And the Krishnas don't like being mixed up with what they regard as a bunch of non-religious upstarts. Murray Moore reports.
Well, mainly it just centres around, drugs, sex and rock and roll. People think that we're into those things, which of course the Rajneesh are, but we're not.
Things like, well, you all indulge in group sex, or one of the other ones is, you're the people where your master has 96 Rolls Royces. It's cheapening the whole spiritual process, and I really object to that.
The plight of Hare Krishnas in 1985, being accused of indulging in free sex, drinking, and following a guru with a stable of Rolls Royces, all because of the colour of their robes.
Our celibate monks, they wear these saffron-coloured robes and have always.
Chitta Hari, Regional Director of the Krishnas.
It means celibacy. That's exactly what it means. So when our orange men are mistaken for Rajneesh, it's a great offence because they're celibate and the Rajneesh are blatantly,
Promiscuous.
Promiscuous, that's it.
It's easy to see why they're being confused. Take away the chants and bells and there's little difference. But it wasn't a major problem until this woman arrived.
You're a worthless man.
Sheila, the Orange people's idea of public relations.
You must know pimps, because you must be going to prostitute yourself.
She's actually a very obnoxious lady.
Do you think she's a good right-hand person for a spiritual leader?
Well, if a spiritual leader's got a right-hand person like that, it doesn't say a lot for his teachings.
Do you know what religion they belong to? Orange people?
I think it would be orange.
Orange people.
I think so.
Hare Krishna? Yeah. What do you think?
Orange person?
An orange person.
Yeah.
Why do you think an orange person?
So wearing orange robes.
Orange people, that's all that we call them.
It's like a big insult, actually, for a Hare Krishna. It's the worst. If you want to insult a Hare Krishna, call him a Rajneesh.
It's ironic, of all religions, it's the Hare Krishnas who are condemning the Orange people. It was only a few years ago street processions like this were banned in Melbourne streets and certainly not encouraged in other capital cities. But now the Krishnas say that they are as respectable as the Catholic or Protestant churches.
We're even more. We are seen as more religious. They all know that, and we're a lot of fun.
The Hare Krishnas are so outraged, they want the government to stop the Rajneeshis claiming to be a religion.
They're not a religion. They may be a business organisation or something like that, but they are not a religion.
Why aren't they?
Because they don't follow the moral principles of purity.
The Orange people first agreed to answer the criticisms, but then had a change of heart. Because they don't recognise the Krishna religion, as it has, quote, too many rules, beliefs and disciplines. Don't you think it's ironic that it's the Hare Krishnas who are complaining about this way-out fringe religion?
Look, Marie, the Hare Krishnas have never, ever been in question as to their religious principles. We may have had some criticism over our strange looks, which is not strange in the 1980s anyway. In fact, we're very in, shaved heads are very in, But
it was only a few years ago people were criticising you.
I'm very proud to walk down the street with a shaved head and robes on. People all give you respect. Businessmen, everybody.
It's the orange robes which seems to cause the confusion. Would you consider discarding them?
We're not going to change. It's always been our custom and always will be.
Would you like them to change colours then?
Yeah, we sure wouldn't mind it. Why don't they become the brown people or something?
Murray Moore had an unusual problem of identity. More in a moment.
The suspicion the Orange people, or Rajneeshis, are currently creating in Western Australia is much the same as that stirred up by the Hare Krishna movement a decade or more ago. Yet today, not only are the Hare Krishnas accepted, they're actually being depended upon for their aid work in such places as Sydney's King's Cross, where they give 1,000 meals a week to down-and-out residents.
The shuffling feet are reminiscent of the 30s, but the background music is no longer "Buddy, can you spare a dime?"
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
This is a modern-day soup kitchen in Sydney's King's Cross, and just part of the charity distributed daily by the Hare Krishna movement around the world. Although the derelicts, the drug addicts and the homeless are the main recipients of Hare Krishna welfare, up the stairs of their King's Cross temple, a dining room equal to any upmarket restaurant. The food is still free, but the atmosphere is designed to tempt a better class of clientele. Amongst the diners this night, the Reverend Ted Noss, whose wayside chapel just down the road has struggled to bring religion against the tide to the godless King's Cross for a generation.
Hare Krishnas, in a way, I think in the 21st century will fulfil the role that the Salvation Army fulfilled, say, in the 18th and 19th centuries.
But all those meals cost money. Where does it come from?
Yeah, well, God is signing the checks. He may not personally sign them, but through different means, he's making so much wealth available for these purposes.
The Krishna devotees say they have the resources to serve an infinite number of meals, and whatever the demand, they'll stretch to meet it. David McLaughlin for 7 National News. Mr Yabsley, as a politician, what do you think of the work that the Hare Krishnas do here in King's Cross, your electorate?
In terms of meeting the physical needs of many people in the King's Cross area, I think the work that they are doing is marvellous, particularly in view of the fact that there is total independence from government and absolutely no desire to develop any dependence upon government. And in this day and age, that's a singularly great achievement. At the same time, there's obviously a very profound spiritual element combined with that I know very little about, but I can see a very deep faith there.
Are they fulfilling a role that perhaps government agencies should be fulfilling?
No, I don't think so. I see it that independent organisations can do a far better job than government will ever hope to be able to do in the area of providing welfare for those people who need it. And I think there are many examples of where government has moved in, has taken over, and ends up providing a demonstrably inferior service to that organisations such as this are providing.
Are there many votes here for the temple?
I don't know. You know, one of the rewarding things about politics is that you become involved in many areas where, in fact, the votes are irrelevant. I haven't done a head count of Hare Krishnas in the electorate of Bligh, but I might.
That'll do us nicely, thank you. All right. Okay. Pratapana, is there a philosophy behind the meal distribution service?
Well, Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he said that no one should go hungry within a radius of 10 miles from the temple. So that's always been a very important instruction as far as we're concerned. And therefore we like to make public as far as possible that we have this program, so that if there's anybody out there that is hungry or that wants to have a meal, we want to make them aware that we have this service. So we'd like to see that everybody within a 10-mile radius of the temple has a full belly.
That's a general philosophy. Is there a particular need in this area of King's Cross?
Well, we're in King's Cross not so much because it's the best place to prosecute spiritual life, but we've come here because we see that King's Cross actually is the place, this area is the place which really needs it most.
In what ways?
Well, we find here that the suffering is most intense, that people in the King's Cross area, in this inner city area, are actually suffering more than perhaps anywhere else in Sydney. And people here are much more anxiety. Sinful life here is much more intense. So therefore, we come right to the, to the root of the problem.
Each night you have a queue of people waiting to be served with meals. How many of those people become devotees of Krishna?
Well, it's not really a proselytizing, move. Very, very few would actually take to the Krishna conscious way of life. Very few.
You don't push consciously the religion as people come to this?
No, people that come here, they don't feel any pushing at all from our side. We're providing a service, and on the other hand, we're not trying to proselytize or trying to influence people to accept our philosophy. They can take it or they can leave it. It's there, they can see it, but it's up to the individual. But we, for our part, we don't push upon the public, our way of life. So they come and they take, and then they can leave, or if they like, they can stay.
How can you afford to do that, to give without getting anything in return in the way of devotion?
Well, God is not a poor man, right? So we're feeding, say, every day 300 to 500 people here, but actually we could feed 30,000 people here. Maybe not here, but we could take over the Hyatt Hotel and we could feed them there. But as the need is there, we can supply. God is unlimitedly wealthy, and therefore, we can. If there's 300, 500 people, that is nothing. We can feed the whole of Sydney if they want to come.
What about the money aspect, though? You have to find the physical need to buy the food or to get the food from somewhere to pay for all of that.
Yeah, well, God is signing the checks. He may not personally sign them, but through different means, He's making so much wealth available for these purposes. So we're taking that wealth and we're distributing it to the people. Wealth is meant for that. It's meant to actually be taken and given back, once again, in the form of so many different benefits to the people.
That'll do us nicely. Thank you.
Hey, that was a beautiful song.
Okay, fair enough. Reverend Ted Noss, does the Krishna temple compete with or complement the Wayside Chapel?
Oh, absolutely. It complements the chapel. Without the temple here, not only would the chapel not be able to do its work effectively, but I think the whole community would suffer. The vast amount of meals served, what the government would have to do with so many hungry people without their continuous work, I think would be enormous. I think the money they save the community is measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Why do you send people here?
Well, because not only is there food, that's terribly important, but there's also fellowship. And it's given in a charitable and in a friendly way. It's not like a dole queue, and it's not like a handout from some kind of government agency, which is often impersonal, doesn't have any feeling to it. And I think spiritual centres like the Hare Krishna Centre are invaluable, not only invaluable, I think absolutely necessary to deal with a kind of harshness in our society today.
What was seen is very different from a Salvation Army soup kitchen.
Well, actually, you've hit the nail on the head. In a way, the Hare Krishnas are the updating of the Salvation Army. You see, the music is a factor of their whole presentation. The uniform or the way they dress is in a kind of a uniform. And not only that, the smiling face, the generous attitude, and of course the spiritual word of encouragement. All of that is virtually what the Hare Krishnas have become to the world in the 20th century, the Salvation Army. Although the Salvation Army is working up here, and it still has a job to do. But Hare Krishnas, in a way, I think in the 21st century will fulfill the role that the Salvation Army fulfilled, say, in the 18th and 19th centuries.
And you applaud that service?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we lose sight of the fact that all of our welfare work begins with spiritual activities such as this. We see a drug centre. We see a health department. We see an education department. They didn't start off as a result of political action and political decisions. They began with some person saying, look, we've got to teach these children something. And so you have a whole education department evolve. You find somebody who's dealing with the sick, and so you have the Catholics building a great big St. Vincent's Hospital. And after a while, government departments become so big and they say, we did it all. They did nothing. The real welfare work in the world began with places like this temple. This is the real spiritual work of this city at this moment, and the real welfare work, because it's not just a handout. It's a handout with something else, human compassion, and it gives welfare a human face.
That'll do us nicely.
All the
it's almost like a blueprint.
Yeah.
Do you feel all those requirements?
I think so.
She's very modest.
Very modest?
She's very modest.
That's a major point. To what degree does love play a part in the marriage?
To a great degree. I think the difference is that the couple shares a mutual love for Krishna first, and then love for each other comes second, because that's the love that's going to keep them together, their love for Krishna.
Is that so, rather than the man-to-woman love?
Because Krishna is at the center of the marriage.
Well, where does your life go from here? Do you go back to America?
Well, Sharmila has some work to finish up for her PhD, and then she's coming to America later on next summer. We're going to be living in New York.
I guess a lot of people, and I thought of this when I first was told about the interview, how do you rationalize wealth and Krishna?
Well, of course, Krishna is the wealthiest person anywhere. Of course, God is the proprietor of everything. So it's just like the only difference between, like, say, myself, my position, being born in a very wealthy family, and being born in, say, Ethiopia into a starving family is my karma. You know, it's simply work that's been done, as Shirley MacLaine was talking about, in past lifetimes. So this wealth that I've been given by Krishna, I choose to utilize in his service because it belongs to him anyway. So I don't see there's no conflict in my life at all.
So presumably you inject large funds into religion.
Right.
How does that govern? Do you have a control on that, or is that completely relinquished to the religion?
No, I tend to try to take a personal role in how the money's being spent and which projects it's being spent on. It's like we just finished a huge cultural exhibition in Detroit, and we're also working on one here in Australia. So I tend to oversee where I spend my money. I like to see how it's spent and where it's spent.
As a youth, you were anything but a religious man, rather wild and woolly, to say the least. What occurred to change your life so dramatically?
Well, I think I've always been religious, but I've never been very disciplined. And I think also that was another characteristic I was looking for in a wife, as someone who had some religious discipline, you know, was regulated in their activities. But I think I always believed in God. It's just that I was just not brought up to have sort of a regulated, disciplined life. I was rather wild and had the facilities to do whatever I wanted to do.
Sure. How does your family feel about the whole arrangement?
Well, they've seen the changes that I've been through since I became a devotee, and they're very pleased about it.
And Sharmila, what about your family? I mean,
They're happy because they couldn't have found a better son-in-law who's following the true Vedic tradition.
Yeah. Well, look, I hope it goes well for you both. One thing I might get you to do just before you go is describe what the ceremony will be like on Boxing Day.
I'm going to get, and you do.
Yeah, sure.
What is it going to be a Krishna ceremony, or what?
Yes, it's going to be a true Vedic ceremony.
A true
Vedic, which is the culture of ancient India.
So we have a fire sacrifice, and in the presence of the Guru and Krishna, the man and the wife accept each other as husband and wife, and we chant Sanskrit mantras, and we go around the fire 7 times, and that's basically...
There's a huge vegetarian feast afterwards with Indian music and dances and whatever.
Are you open to people coming along to have a look?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you mind if we brought our cameras to have a look?
I wish you would. It'd be great.
I think we'll do that and have a look at it, what is it, sometime between Christmas and New Year. Thank you for joining us this morning. I appreciate it. Alfred and Sharmila, thank you for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hope everything goes well. Well, that's Sharmila and Alfred Ford, who will be getting married in a Krishna ceremony on Boxing Day just west of Sydney. We'll be back with more of Good Morning Australia in just a moment.
Welcome back to Good Morning Australia. A wedding is always a great time for the whole family and friends to get together and celebrate the love of two people. Yesterday, Good Morning Australia went to a wedding with a difference. It was conducted in the traditional Hare Krishna fashion, and Good Morning Australia reporter Sheridan Jobbins joined in the festivities.
For 5,000 years, people from India have been married in traditional Krishna ceremonies, Krishna being a forerunner to the more familiar Hinduism. In the ceremony, mantras are chanted, the couple's spiritual master makes a speech about marriage, the couple exchange vows, and the marriage is consecrated in a ceremony which involved the bride walking around the groom 7 times while rice is thrown over them. The master utters more mantras, and a fire representing Lord Krishna burns as a witness to the ceremony. Then the husband paints a red dot or line on the bride's forehead, and her sari is tied with his dhoti. The couple are now married. For the Krishna movement, this wedding has been of special significance because it's been between two of their more highly respected devotees, Sharmila Bhattacharya, a Sydney doctor, and Amarish Das, otherwise known as Mr. Alfred Ford, the great-grandson and heir to the car magnate Henry Ford's estate.
No matter if I own the whole world, you know, maybe for 60, 70 years, then you die, and then where do you go? You know, of course you need religion. And it doesn't, you never know how long you're going to be here. I could walk out the door today and get run over by a truck. Wealth, it really doesn't mean anything, you know. It doesn't matter how much or how little you have, you still have to face death.
And what would great-grandfather make of all of this?
He was into some pretty avant-garde things.
Explain that.
Pyramid power. I think he was into reincarnation, I know, then vegetarianism. I think he would have liked to travel, liked exotic things.
After the sharing of vows, the throwing of rice, what wedding would be complete without breaking some bread with friends and family? What a feast. The only other traditional similarity is the sense of relief when the whole thing's over.
I'm glad it's over with.
Do you know that it's part of their tradition to have 100 courses at a wedding breakfast, at a Hare Krishna wedding?
My goodness.
It could take you most of the day.
And evening and the next day, and the breakfast as well.
It was funny, when he was in here talking to us last week about the wedding, he was so confident of the changes it had made in his life. A lot of people still treat the Hare Krishna, well, they call it a religion, I suppose it is, as being a little odd, but certainly he thinks it's done wonders for his life.
Oh, well, it's nice to know. It's all faith and tradition, really, so
Sure.
As long as it keeps you happy, I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah.
On Boxing Day, we covered the beautiful Hare Krishna wedding of Alfred Ford and Sharmila Bhattacharya. We got so much response from viewers who were very curious about the Krishna lifestyle that we decided to invite Sharmila back on the show to tell us more. Good morning and thank you for the garland. It smells beautiful. It's the best I've smelled all morning. Sharmila, most people only have a superficial view of Hare Krishna, the brow paint and the robes. What does it mean to adopt the lifestyle?
Well, the main thing is to chant Hare Krishna regularly every morning and following the 4 regulative principles, which involve no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex.
When you're married, I believe, even then there is very specific rules about sexual relationships.
Yeah, we only engage in sex in order to have children, even in marriage.
Wouldn't that reduce the intimacy of a couple and their ability to just be close to each other?
No, it doesn't, because in Krishna consciousness we develop a higher taste and we have so many things to share that it doesn't take away any intimacy from a married couple.
So the only point then is to have children?
That's right.
Is that sexist?
No. The whole purpose of sex life is meant for procreation, and since it involves, in order to progress in spiritual life, you have to get away from this concept of being
physical.
Yes, so that's why in order to accentuate the role of the soul, which we really are, we are spirit souls, eternal parts and parcels of God, Krishna. So that helps us with the understanding that we are not these bodies. And the more you engage in sex, you're actually
becoming
relating
obsessed with the body
rather than the soul.
I know that Krishna marriages are arranged. Was yours arranged with Alfred?
They're not always arranged, because we all have people who are already married when they join Krishna consciousness. Yes. There are often boyfriend and girlfriends who join Krishna consciousness. And like the spiritual master helps, if you don't have anyone in mind, he can help find someone who suits your particular nature. But it's not always arranged. Like in my case, it wasn't arranged.
Can you divorce?
Well, no. It's not at all encouraged. So when you decide on marriage, it's a very big step, and you should have thought about all the pros and cons before you get into it.
Now, what were you doing before you joined Krishna, and give us an idea now of the day you lead?
Right. Well, I was a student at Melbourne University when I joined the Krishna consciousness movement. I was doing a master's, and now I'm doing a PhD, and my routine day for me involves getting up about no later than 4 in the morning, chanting Hare Krishna for about a couple of hours, and offering the foodstuffs to Krishna before breakfast, and then go off to the hospital for a full day of research, and coming back home to read some of the nice books I have here.
Why does a woman, obviously of great intelligence, offer foodstuffs to an ethereal being?
Oh, Krishna is not an ethereal being. He's God. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
But he can't eat those cakes.
Huh?
But he can't eat the cakes.
What's so wonderful about Krishna is that he does eat them, but he still leaves everything for you to have after he's spiritualized the food. What's so important about offering the food to Krishna is that he takes away all the karma from the food that's involved, like you incur so many sinful reactions by lighting a fire to cook. You kill so many living entities, so you're sinning at every point. So when you have prepared your food, you offer it to Krishna. He takes away all the karma for the sinful reactions you incur, and he spiritualizes the food, and you just have to take it and enjoy it.
Do you eat it? Obviously you eat it afterwards.
Yes, of course.
Do you spend much time with your husband?
If he was here, I would, but he's away in the United States right now because he has business to take care of, and I have a very hectic schedule.
Was there any reluctance to marry him because of the Ford name and the empire that he comes from?
No, because he doesn't really involve himself so much with the family business.
Your own feelings about the future of your life. If you'd never come across Krishna, wouldn't you have been happy in yourself and satisfied?
No, I would have missed out on a great deal, because I think every person in their own lifetime comes across this question in their mind, that who am I? What, isn't there more to life than just what I'm doing right now? Where did I come from? Where am I going?
Every morning at 5 a.m. I know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about.
But
What the hell am I doing?
But everyone shelves that question because there is no answer to it. But when I came to Krishna consciousness and read these books, I found the answers to these questions, and they've provided a definite goal in life, and I can see everything in the proper perspective right now. So I think my life would have been incomplete without Krishna consciousness.
And you can get up at 4:30 a.m. and smile?
Yes, we all smile and dance.
Give me the book. I must read this book. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in. People are fascinated about your lifestyle. And I would like, first of all, to thank you, Sharmila, for sharing more of your time.
Thank you.
And I don't know about the diet, but certainly how to do it positively.
It has some vegetarian recipes, but it's different from any other vegetarian cookbook because it tells you how to spiritualize your food. This is just a little paperback about reincarnation.
All right.
And this is a biography on the founder of our movement, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
I won't repeat that.
You don't have
We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more of Good Morning Australia and more peace of mind after this short break.
Amusement parks with a theme have certainly become the trend. Each weekend, thousands of families spend thousands of dollars at places such as Old Sydney Town, the Gold Coast SeaWorld or Dreamworld. And now a new tourist attraction has sprung up just south of the Gold Coast tourist strip, but in northern New South Wales. And as Brian Anderson reports, this really is a world of difference.
It's a fair dinkum enough little corner of Australia, but then again it is different. A rich river valley west of Murwillumbah in northern New South Wales. Peaceful, quiet, and home to a people who are still the object of curiosity wherever they go. Here's one place that booze is banned. There's no sex on the side, no eating of meat, no gambling allowed. A society that claims a divorce rate of only 2 or 3%. The Gold Coast has its Dreamworld and SeaWorld, now northern New South Wales. The Gold Coast has its Dreamworld and SeaWorld, now northern New South Wales has its Hare Krishna World. 400 hectares of prime Aussie countryside that the Krishnas are developing as a tourist trap. It's their rural retreat as well, a $6 million development that already has its own school and housing estate, together with a marble temple, restaurant, souvenir shop and display of Australian native birds to keep the customers coming in. Although talk to the tourists and you'll find that the Hare Krishnas themselves are the main attraction.
We found it very interesting. It's the first time we've ever come down.
We brought 35 people and we offered them the same deal for the same price to come to here or to get off at the Moolumbar Oversell, and they chose to come here. There was only 2 got off.
So they chose this instead of poker machines,
yes,
Yes,
yes.
that's saying something.
The Hare Krishnas certainly don't hide away from the outside world. Their farm is open to visitors at any time, but this was advertised as a festival day and sold to all comers like any other tourist attraction. A sort of meet us down on the farm and see what we're all about day.
And any ladies that you see that have a red dot on their forehead, they're married. And any ladies that don't have a red dot on their forehead, they're single. So it's like when you go to the army, you can see, well, he's got 3 stripes, he's a sergeant. So you can tell I'm married.
You're married.
Right, I have a family, my wife's around here somewhere, and my daughter. And those men that have the orange robes, they're not married.
They're Australians, but they follow an Indian religion and lifestyle that's thousands of years old. In the early days, they were ostracised or ignored by the general community. But it seems that after a quarter of a century, they're here to stay.
I didn't know very much at all, except that, well, obviously that they were vegetarian and that they had a rather severe lifestyle.
Shirley Craig is a Hare Krishna grandma. She doesn't follow their religion herself, but 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren live here at Hare Krishna World.
When they come home to stay with us, they mix with so many other children. It doesn't seem to be any problem for them.
They don't feel a part of a different world?
No, it doesn't faze them a little bit. Sometimes you can see other people look at their hair, you know, they have the little piece of hair at the back, but no, it doesn't seem to worry them at all. I just can't think of the word, but I know that they're very, very at ease with everybody.
The feature event of the day that most people were waiting for. A genuine, live before your very own eyes, Hare Krishna wedding. Colourful, noisy, and it seemed a real crowd pleaser. But did the Krishnas win any hearts? And just what chance do they have of turning their devotional Disneyland into a fully fledged tourist attraction?
Has it changed your idea of what sort of people they are?
No, I doubt not. I don't think so.
So what sort of people do you think they are?
Better be careful what I'm saying here, hadn't I?
No,
I think they're righteous people.
I'd come again.
You would?
And the children have enjoyed it, so...
So they've won a few hearts, have they?
Oh, I think so. Just as people.
I was expecting, like, more Christianity or more... not so happy one. I reckon they are quite happy people.
Christians, they're not. Happy, it certainly seems so. Their lifestyle is as strict as that inside any monastery, yet it's open to the outside world at the same time. And provided they don't run short of people to undergo their very public wedding ceremonies, Hare Krishna World could well become a popular and profitable tourist destination.
Hare Krishnas, showing Queenslanders what we're like over the border in New South Wales.
The newly formed Coalition Against Poverty is leading the fight to have the emergency payments reintroduced. The system of small cash payments for urgent things like food and electricity was instituted by the state government in 1978 to combat welfare cuts by the Fraser government. This month, the state government cut $6.8 million, or 75% of funds available for the emergency cash handouts, because it believes it's a federal responsibility.
While they're toughing it out, people are starving, people are having their light cut off, people are being evicted, and it will get worse before it gets better.
I went to receive assistance for my electricity bill. Yaks paid half of it for me and told me not to come back for any assistance for another year.
The cuts mean single people have been virtually excluded from the scheme, and payments will be made only to married couples whose children are deemed at risk or neglected, or where the family could break down without emergency aid. A spokesman for Youth and Community Services Minister Frank Walker said the state government has no plans to reintroduce the payments. Since the emergency cash system was cut, business has boomed at inner city soup kitchens, with some experiencing double their normal patronage. Last Wednesday, the Hare Krishna Food for Life kitchen ran out of free food for the first time in 8 years.
Since emergency aid was cut on the 1st of October, the number of people queuing for food at the Hare Krishna Food for Life Centre has almost doubled. Almost 200 a night are expected by the end of the month if there's no boost in emergency aid from the state or federal governments. Last Wednesday night, the centre ran out of food for the first time in its 5 years of operation. To help cope with demand, the Hare Krishnas tonight officially opened an extension of their dining area. Worldwide Director of Food for Life, Srila Vishnupad, says it's a disgrace that in a wealthy country like Australia, people are starving.
I mean, it's ridiculous that you have so much wheat. You're one of the major wheat-producing countries in the world. And just over some politics and bickering over a small amount of money between the state government and the federal government, and meanwhile the people are starving. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a symptom of an uncaring government, and those kind of governments should be thrown out.
The cut in emergency aid also continues to stretch the resources of other voluntary agencies. The Smith Family, Care Force and Sydney City Mission today reported an 80% increase in demand for assistance. Carolyn Jack, Eyewitness News.
Such a quick shot, no one will even notice.
Oh, that'll be good, because the reputation has gone throughout the world.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to try a shot of that. Just
a bit more.
Put that back up. Yeah, how you had it before.
Just hold it
I'll
under.
tell you I'll okay.
Do you want to give these to...
You could...
Okay, when you're ready.
So we'll bring these out.
They're squaring around.
Well, you know, you can come back here as much as you want. Oh, he's waiting. Do you mind just being a flavour and also with the tax? Yeah, there's a little tax just going on.
Why not? Why not? Take a seat. Of course, he's on a diet, but we'll give him something. Just take a bite. Sit down again, Mike.
Goswami Maharaj Vishnu Pad ki jai, Srila Vishnu Pad ki jai. Jam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Chadrastatara Sri Srimadis Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Siddha Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sri Goho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Siva Sri Govardhana ki jai. Nitai Gopamanande Guru. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Bhagavan. Namaste,